Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Klingane. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier business development partner within tech. Today, we have a very exciting guest joining us. We're joined by a true pioneer within the AI space, Dominick DeFazio, the CEO of Salescraft. Dominick, welcome to the show. Would you mind
Hey,
introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what you do with Salescraft?
yeah, thanks so much for having me, Oliver. I am the architect, lead developer, and founder at Salescraft. We're a Salesforce services company, meaning we provide Salesforce services to our clients, including implementation, migration, development, and more recently, we've been focused in on providing AI solutions as well, whether that's through a managed package and delivering customized AI solutions or using Agentforce within Salesforce to build AI-powered automation.
Awesome. And obviously, AI has taken off in the past couple of years. Salescraft was one of the companies that, as you mentioned, when you're kind of the founder, you got ahead of. How has that kind of shifted over the past couple of years?
Yeah, it's completely shifted our focus as a company. I immediately took advantage of the OpenAI APIs the second they were released, started building stuff in my Scratch org just to try and get a feel for how this new paradigm shift would be utilized within business. And it is very unique. It's very different from traditional coding, and it's also shifted a lot of how we work internally. I've got, for example, enterprise ChatGPT subscriptions for my whole team, Copilot for GitHub, as well as Visual Studio, so my people can code faster. And I'm also leveraging OpenAI and Agentforce for my clients so that they can speed up their processes using AI and generative intelligence. And so I think that to answer your question, the focus of my company is to be able to take advantage of the technology and really provide a valuable use case for AI that clearly demonstrates the return on investment by utilizing the technology.
Hmm, amazing. And I saw recently Salescraft had a big win at the Salesforce Hackathon. Would you mind kind of walking us through that, what that was like?
Yeah, the world tour was a big win for us. We signed up about, I don't know, 2 weeks before the event actually started, and we came into it with a couple ideas about how we could leverage Agentforce to build an application that would impress. And the truth is, we hadn't really seen Agentforce at all walking into the hackathon. So we had no idea what the tool looked like or how the user interface would play out. But we had been building our own internal AI powered application called Cranium for the past year and a half. So we already had a good understanding of agentic AI, the functionalities that it was best at, and how to best demonstrate its capabilities quickly because we built all kinds of sales demos when it comes to Cranium itself. And so we walked into the Javits Center around 5 p.m. It's like 8 hours of work we had already been through, so we were tired. But the hackathon started at like 6 and then went till midnight that night. And so we put together a plan of action of what we were going to build. We decided on something called PeopleForce. It's like an HR application, so allowing employees to plan outings on the company card and log those expenses dynamically. We built a couple different APIs on the first night to power the AI and make it multifunctional so that it could search the web for different restaurant recommendations based on the keywords that you provided as well as your location. And then we also connected it to an AI internet search platform called Perplexity so that it could be very intelligent in terms of getting the most up-to-date information for whatever the user was searching for. Once we had the integrations done, then the next day we spent time just refining the agent's instructions and really ensuring that the user had a streamlined experience when utilizing the tool. And the last 3 hours we just devoted to demoing the tool itself, which I'm pretty good at. I do that kind of stuff for our clients anyway. When we have our end of sprint retrospectives and sprint demos. So it was pretty natural for me to walk through the process, but did take a few hours. And anybody that does a hackathon should definitely allocate a good amount of time for the recording of your solution. In fact, we're gearing up for another hackathon in about a month at TDX, the developer conference that Salesforce puts on over in San Francisco. That one, the prize is 5x, so looking at 100K for the grand prize. And so our eyes are on that money. I think that my team has a good shot at victory there as well.
Yeah, Joe, I'll be rooting for you guys. So no, that's awesome. But that first hackathon experience, it sounds like it really kind of laid the groundwork, built some momentum for craft, and kind of just one probably also just enhanced team morale as well. Being the founder, what sort of kind of challenges have you faced in the AI space of kind of growing a company, whether that be in differentiation, just the standard competitive market, or just general growth overall?
Yeah, I'll be honest, Oliver. It's been before the hackathon win, it was fairly difficult to secure a new AI business, mostly because it's so early in the technology's adoption stage. I feel like we're at the same point we were in like 1999 and before the internet was getting popularized, where companies are like, is this really the time for me to invest in a new technology? Is it going to be a year or two later when it's way cheaper? And that has been really difficult in terms of being able to secure new projects, especially from our small medium-sized businesses that we generally work with here at Salescraft. So figuring out how to demonstrate that return on investment is kind of a core portion of our sales process, because we've identified that as a primary obstacle in terms of closing new contracts. But with the hackathon win and the level of attention that we got from being able to shake the former CTO's hand, Parker Harris, he's a really cool guy, by the way, and being on all of their socials definitely drove additional business to us. We closed some of our largest contracts pretty much directly after the hackathon win. We've been doing Agentforce proof of concepts for as low of a rate we possibly can, so that we could demonstrate the capabilities of technology and showcase how it could be used. And so I think the greatest challenge for us has been the amount of money and time that we spent changing our brand, changing our positioning to be focused on implementing AI hasn't truly paid off, mostly because of I think that the space is still maturing and that businesses aren't necessarily ready to invest into a technology that hasn't been fully proved out yet. And I think that it's going to get worse before it gets better, especially with new entries into the market like DeepSeek, proving that AI can be 10x as cheap or even 100x as cheap in some cases. Like that information to me demonstrates that perhaps this thing is overpriced at the moment. And my tool Cranium leverages various AI backends, right? We can use OpenAI's API infrastructure, but Claude and even Gemini and DeepSeek all have the same API configuration. So we can switch our tool over to DeepSeek, for example, tomorrow if we wanted to. The truth is we don't want to, because honestly, the cheaper that you find a solution for, it's going to be indicative of quality. And just on our initial testing with DeepSeek, it does not have the same level of quality in its ability to intelligently call different functions and to provide a really holistic agentic experience, which I think is really the most valuable form of AI that you're going to find. But yeah, I went on a little bit of a tangent there.
No, fantastic. And I completely agree with kind of the shift with platforms like DeepSeek coming out. If you pay peanuts, you attract monkeys, so they say. So the price is an issue, but in the AI space, since it's just so in that kind of evolution phase still, people are still figuring it out. And with that, how are you going about, you mentioned the hackathon really helped you out. What are the strategies you have for in terms of differentiation in this space?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that to differentiate ourselves from our competitors that are also focused in the AI space, the number one thing is going to be experience and having real successful projects under our belt. And the hackathon is an example of our ability to build fast and showcase AI capabilities quickly, which is actually really valuable for the companies that are just dipping their toes into the water and exploring AI use cases. And so that differentiator right there is the ability to move fast, to build fast, and showcase value is key. I don't think other people can claim that they've won a hackathon in 48 hours and shown their abilities in that fashion. But in addition to that experience, we also have almost 2 years of experience now building AI solutions internally at Salescraft. We've been building Cranium the whole time, and because of that, we have a really in-depth knowledge of how to leverage generative intelligence within our code and within our offerings on our product. So having that experience for the past year and a half, 2 years is I don't think a lot of other companies can claim that as well. The only other thing I'll say, and this is kind of a differentiator for Salescraft in general, not specific to the AI space, but all of my people are in office today. So I have a company that's built in New York, made up of New York professionals, and these people are best in class in the development, in operations, and client management. And the fact that we are gathered in the same office space does allow us to provide a level of client service and camaraderie that I don't think a lot of remote organizations can offer. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, 100%. And that's awesome. And one thing I kind of want to dive into there is you've built a in-house team, in-person team. Would you mind kind of walking me through that? What are some of the reasonings behind going in person as opposed to remote? What are the benefits?
Yeah, definitely. So I started Salescraft as a one-man consulting team. It was to just be a conduit for new contracts that came my way. But eventually I had people on LinkedIn reaching out to me, asking if they could be my apprentice, essentially. Learn from me, learn how to code, and then learn how to be a Salesforce consultant. And I said yes, and I had already been training people to become Salesforce developers, mostly my friends who were unemployed. So I had good experience training people up and teaching them how to code. And so I applied that same kind of curriculum that I've been using for my unemployed friends to my new apprentices, essentially. Eventually, that turned into a full course. I would teach for 3 months. And at one point, my academy was at like 15, 20 people. It was in person 2 nights a week. And that allowed me to really see how well you work, how seriously you're taking the profession. Because if you show up to class and you pay attention, you answer questions, and you work hard, then you're gonna catch my attention as a potential employee. And all of my employees that are consultants in the space come from that academy, and because I am in person, I'm also able to build a team culture that is extremely effective for getting through both the bad times and the good times in a company's trajectory. I feel like when you're remote, you're not really connected to the pulse and the energy of the company that you're working at. While as opposed to here at Salescraft, we all feel the bad times. We all feel the lack of business coming in, and we all feel the urgency that we need to do something to work together to get ourselves going onto that next, that next level of as a company together. And the same vice versa with like a hackathon win. There's no way if we were all remote, we wouldn't have been able to show up for a world tour hackathon in New York, because gathering a team for that kind of event is, difficult and expensive. Like the only reason we can all gather for the next hackathon in San Francisco is because of the new business that's come because of the hackathon win in New York. And having a remote team, I think that it's just a lot harder to manage as well, especially because of the ability to moonlight, have multiple contracts going at the same time. I started out moonlighting, for example, and so I know people are doing it all the time, and that's not the kind of business I want to run. I want people dedicated to the project of Salescraft, and it's built into our bylaws as a company too. I have some revenue share capabilities here at Salescraft, so if you work for me for a while, you get entered into kind of like a senior partner status, like at law firms. And so my top developers make their bonuses essentially by contributing to the company and bringing in new business. And I found that to be very effective. And I don't know if it'd be possible from a remote perspective. I think that a lot of companies, and including the government, are requiring a return to office, and there's a reason for that.
100%. And I love the mindset there. I come from a background in sports, so being in the locker room, things like that, you get to celebrate the wins together, but you also, like you said, you feel the losses, but that just makes the wins feel so much better.
Mhm.
So with that, being a startup, there's just a lot of ups and downs naturally, whether it's in AI space, across tech, any other industry. How do you keep people motivated? You mentioned some incentives, keeping people motivated that way. What sort of kind of morale do you build? Obviously, things like the hackathon help you out. What other ways do you have to kind of motivate the team?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think people might push back on this a little bit, but I love hanging out as a team together after work, and like it doesn't have to be an outing or anything. You could just play cards together. And so, for example, like during our bad months after work, we would hang out and play. We played a game called Chinese Poker or another game. Yeah, these kinds of after work events
Mm-hmm.
build that level of like a friendship that I think can make it harder to leave a company because these people aren't just your coworkers; they're also your friends. And I hesitate from any like mention of family because I feel like that's overused and too corporate. Now, we're not a family here at Salescraft, but we are our friends, and that makes it a little bit harder to leave, especially during the bad times because you're now leaving your friends behind to deal with the bad times that are in front of you. And so I think that another way to build good company culture is just to ensure from the get go that the people that you're hiring are going to be a good fit. And for that, that's why I really require in person interviews for any roles that are like business side focused. For consultants, again, I only hire through my academy. So that's a little bit easier. So I sometimes have my devs teach some of those classes now so they can get a feel for the class themselves. And I run through the hiring decision with them. And then also from the business side of things, I make sure that the key personnel involved to do culture checks. And that vibe check during the interview is really important. It's the first round interview that we have here for any new employee.
Yeah, perfect. And it sounds like with this team you've built, you guys have kind of big initiatives in place. You're building out your Cranium side of the business. Would you mind kind of walking me through what trend you hopped on to kind of get behind that? What gap you saw that Cranium could fill?
Yeah, definitely. Um, well, so first of all, Cranium is very similar to Salesforce's agent experience. Both of these are platforms for leveraging AI within Salesforce. And to take a step back there, like what is Salesforce? First of all, it's a CRM at its core, but beyond that, it's a database that you could build on top of and model your business and your business processes in a way that's going to be able to ensure that you have good forecasting from your sales perspective, that you have a great overview of your service team's performances, how it's a way for you to manage your marketing, and so AI fits into all of that. But the question is, how do you actually implement AI into those different possible use cases of Salesforce? And right now, your options are to either use Agentforce at $2 a conversation. And by the way, Agentforce doesn't even have an API out yet, so you're really limited to the actual use cases you have for that tool to either be on your sidebar within Salesforce or in a chat window on your website. Those are two really good use cases for AI, but the real reason we're building Cranium is because we wanted to give Salesforce admins and developers the ability to use generative AI throughout Salesforce, wherever they want, whether that's in a flow, which is a type of automation within Salesforce, or within the code that gets triggered based on different database updates. We want to be able to give normal people the ability to use AI where it's best, especially, which can be in, turning unstructured data into structured data, for example. So say you've got like a resume you need to parse. That's really, really good for AI to handle, in the sense that it can extract all the different portions of the resume and map that to the object structure that you currently have in Salesforce. That's a great use case, but you can't do that with Agentforce right now.
Mm.
And because there's no way to upload documents into your chat interface. Instead, if you want to leverage a tool like Cranium, very simple. Upload the file, have a trigger that takes the file contents, send it to Cranium's GPT callout, and it will return, based on the instructions that you gave it, the actual JSON for inserting new records into Salesforce. And there's also built-in methods that allow you to just save that to a given record itself. And it makes it super simple for a developer to do that kind of use case. And I think Agentforce will get there, but I think that the reason we built Cranium is to give developers and admins a low-cost, fully functional alternative to Agentforce. And that's what it is. It really exceeds at that process. But that said, I think that one thing to say, a disclaimer for both Agentforce and Cranium and AI solutions in general, is that it's really important to have clear goals for what you as a business want to accomplish by leveraging AI. Because if you don't have an idea of what you want to accomplish, then it's very easy to build stuff that's not going to get you a return on investment. And so that's kind of the first thing that we do whenever we're approaching a new client for a Cranium implementation or an Agentforce POC, is like, what is the lowest hanging fruit, or what's the highest value item that your business currently has to deal with that we think that AI could be a good candidate for leveraging to make more efficient or to expand upon the capabilities we currently offer.
Yeah, no, awesome. And it sounds that's something we've heard before is people hear AI and they think it can be applicable to everything in their business, but they don't necessarily know exactly what that means. You mentioned it there. That's one of the first things you do is kind of guide them to that value. How do you go about doing so? Is that through a conversation? Is it through past use cases? How do you go about kind of navigating those conversations?
It's a combination, right? So we have good experience now looking at how AI could be used for different businesses. So leveraging those past experiences and being like, hey, this company managed to achieve an ROI of 3x on their customer service side by allowing their service reps to focus in on high priority tickets, while the agent that we built for them handles most of their incoming inbound chat traffic, enabling a higher rate of deflection and improved CSAT scores. Those stats and experiences allow us to be like, if you have a chat messaging setup in Salesforce, then you're going to get clearly an ROI here because we've proven it in the past. And then it's more about running the numbers about the money that they're currently spending on that service side of their team. From there, though, I love diving into the current overall Salesforce setup that they have, so I get a complete picture of how are they leveraging Salesforce as a business, and then identifying from there where is the biggest cost savings that we could see from an AI implementation. And sometimes that's in like email generation, for example. Like it turns out that their marketing copy people are taking a week to build like intelligent email templates, or they're spending weeks at a time sifting through a membership database to identify good candidates for a marketing initiative. And instead of having people doing that manual labor, those are really good use cases for AI, right? I think that the best thing to do is to like even take a step back, identify what is AI best at, right? Number one, it's going to be sifting through unstructured data. It is excellent at reading through huge chunks of text and getting key data points out. That is probably number one. Number two is going to be around data entry and ensuring that that you don't have to do all the manual labor in terms of checking all the boxes and typing in all the requiring fields. Cranium has a voice to text option where you can just tell it what you want to do to a record and it'll just do it for you. It's like having your own little assistant. And then past that, it's It's going to be around like chat front facing experiences where you're dealing with clients or customers that could potentially purchase your product or have service related questions. So those three are key use cases. If we can identify that a business is spending a lot of time on any of those three use cases, then we could build around that. But it's really from a use case perspective at this moment in technology's state, mostly because that's what we know works. We're always down to try new experimental stuff. I think that that's how we push forward the boundary of what the technology can do. So, for example, we have one client that is doing a lot of API work for other of their clients in order to be able to connect their payments platform to Salesforce so that their salespeople can complete payments through Salesforce. And all these different APIs have different object structures that require them to spend a lot of money with my team to develop new API endpoints. And so we had this idea, what if we didn't build new webhooks? What if we just didn't build a new API? Instead, we have a new AI that reads the documentation for the API itself and then builds the entire call out with the same exact payload structure regardless of what exactly the other API is expecting, because the AI knows exactly what API is calling to. It can structure out the data according to the specifications of the documentation and its instructions, and then we don't actually code anything. And this has been a promising new use case for us in the sense that we don't have to hand build all these new APIs for these new clients, because these new clients keep coming, they keep having different needs. And instead of doing all of that work, which can be very expensive, hiring developers is probably the most expensive. Instead, now we have an AI that can generate those callouts, which I think is an example of us pushing the boundary, but not something that we recommend for a client to pursue on their first implementation of AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it sounds like you guys are making some big strides on the innovation side of things. With that, everything we've talked about, from your views on the current AI landscape, building a team in person, kind of the values of that, what you guys are doing with Cranium, what's your goals moving forward for 2025?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that number one is to be the best AI implementation partner for Salesforce in the world. I want to build the most prestigious team of AI experts, developers, and admins in the known Salesforce ecosystem. And to do that, we're going to win that hackathon next month. We're going to use that $100,000 to basically gloat and tell the world, yeah, we are the best. We've won twice in a row now. And then take that momentum and keep building the New York team and pursue a more holistic approach to AI past even just Salesforce. I want my consultancy to be able to build custom-made AI solutions on any AI platform and leverage that in a variety of ways, but from a business standpoint. So I also I'm getting a new project here that we're in the process of refining that's looking at like a real-time API connection with OpenAI, which is basically their voice-to-voice AI. So you call this number, for example, and you can start talking to an AI representative, but that AI also has access to your Salesforce org, so it can make updates in the same kind of fashion that a chat interface would. And that project, it isn't necessarily going to be connected to Salesforce, so I'm okay with that. As much as I hate to say it, because I'm very much invested in the Salesforce ecosystem, but I think it's more important for Salescraft to be focused on the AI wave than to just be limited to a single platform. So building that up. And then finally, I think the third big objective is to really get Cranium off the ground and make it the default app exchange tool for businesses to leverage AI within their organizations. And there's still a little bit more work to do there in terms of working out some of the bugs that we found in recent implementations, as well as adding new features to make it a truly inclusive product.
Mm.
But that's the plan this year.
Awesome. You've got some lofty goals, but it sounds like you guys are in stride to make them happen. Especially San Francisco, the hackathon. You guys got that one down.
I hope so.
But Dominic, that's all I got for you today. I really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your knowledge of AI, what you guys are doing, what innovations you guys are seeing, and I can't wait to see how they unfold for you in 2025.
Appreciate it, Oliver.
Thank you, Dominic.
Talk to you soon.